Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is, does this win prove the Clippers are the best team in the NBA? So that's the topic I'm going to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, be on the lookout for our Dreamerspro Premium community, which is launching next week, which will give you guys more information about that. And also be on the lookout for Dreamerspro.com. So anyway, let me get into this this topic here. So last night we saw the game against the Utah Jazz, right? The Clippers had played them two nights prior, but they were without their best players in that game. And Lou Williams, who I'm going to get to subsequently today, we have a lot of content that we're going to produce, and we're doing a video dedicated to Lou Williams today, who I'm going to get to. He kind of ran out of gas that game. But last night they played against the Utah Jazz. And I think a lot of us were really waiting to see how this team was going to perform. I found out a few hours before tip-off that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are going to be back. And I was like, fantastic. Now we're going to see what this team would really look like against the Utah Jazz, because it's one thing for them to lose to the Jazz, who had won 9 games in a row going into that game last night, and say, okay, listen, they were shorthanded. They were without their best players. But now with their best players back, I was really curious to see how they were going to perform, right? And going into last night's game, the Clippers had won 4 out of their 5 games, but 4 out of those games, or 5, all of those games had been without their best player, the 2 best players in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And somehow, given the fact that so many of these players have been out, the Clippers still maintain or still have the 3rd best record in the Western Conference, which to me is astonishing, given the fact of just how tough the Western Conference is. Now, for some of you guys who may not be following the NBA standings, the Western Conference is much tougher than the Eastern Conference to start off with, okay? The Clippers have a 22-9 record after last night's win. The Lakers have a 22-8 record, and the Utah Jazz have a 24-6 record, right? In the Eastern Conference, the top seed in the Eastern Conference in the Philadelphia 76ers, who had a win last night, where Joel Embiid dropped 50 points, which is a career high for him. Good for him. A 50-point double-double. They have a 20-10 record. The Brooklyn Nets have a 19-2 record. So if those teams were in the Western Conference, they would probably be the 4th and 5th seed, just to think about just how tough the Western Conference is on a night in and night out basis. And for the Clippers to still have the 3rd best record in the Western Conference is truly remarkable. Now, let me just put this into perspective for you guys. Paul George, of the 31 games that the Clippers have played this season, Paul George has missed 10 out of the 31 games. Kawhi Leonard has missed 8 out of the 31 games. Batum has missed 4 out of the 31 games. And Patrick Beverley has missed 10 of the 31 games that have been played this season. And somehow the Clippers still have the 3rd best record in the NBA. If you look at them in the loss column, they're just 1 loss behind the Lakers. The Lakers I think the Clippers and the Lakers are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference, but the Lakers that everyone seems to have as decided favorites to come out of the Western Conference, if they're so much better than the Clippers and it seems to be a shoo-in for them to come out of the Western Conference, how is it possible that a team that has been without their best players for such a long period of time and their key role players, starters, only have 1 more loss than the Lakers, who are supposed to be head and shoulders above the Clippers? To me, it makes no sense. Whenever they talk about potential NBA Finals matchups, Clippers rarely get mentioned as a team that can come out of the Western Conference, with the exception of Skip Bayless, who sometimes says, "Listen," I hear say that the Lakers are probably going to come out of the Western Conference. So to me, it's a bit surprising that the Clippers in all of this somehow still don't get mentioned, given the fact that they missed so many of their key guys, right? And last night, they played against a red-hot Utah Jazz team who looked like they probably won 1 million games this season already. It seems like they've probably won, to put it into perspective, they probably won 19 or 18 out of the last 20 games that they've played this season. I don't know. I don't have those exact numbers, but the Utah Jazz have just been, they've been running roughshod over the entire NBA, to be quite honest with you, man. They've just been clicking on all levels. And Rudy Gobert, last night, when I actually got a chance to really sit back and analyze the game, I really saw his impact on the game, because guys were not driving to the basket. Like, people were not driving. If you can't hit that mid-range or the three-point shot, it was going to be pretty tough scoring at them and getting shots at the rim. You saw the Clippers rarely had any free throw attempts just because no one was going to the basket. And when you did go to the basket, he would either block your shot or he would deter your shot without fouling you. That's the reason why the Clippers were rarely getting any calls going to the rim. But thank God they had mid-range players like Kawhi and Marcus Morris Sr., Lou Williams, Paul George, that could score from the mid-range. So they were still able to take advantage of the defense once they got between the 3-point line and the basket. So that was one of the reasons that they were able to get generate a lot of offense. Now, going into that game, knowing that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard had missed a considerable amount of games, that they were going to be rusty, and you saw some of the rust, right? Usually when Kawhi misses a lot of his threes, they're usually short, and it usually happens after a layover. When he misses some games, usually when he comes back and he starts shooting threes, they're usually short. But then the next games, like the second and third games, when he starts playing again, his legs start getting under him, and that's usually what happens. Whenever he misses games, he comes back. His shots are usually short. Paul George looked a little bit rusty. He seemed a little bit out of rhythm. He made some shots. He missed some shots. Shots that he normally makes, he missed last night. The last time when he was playing games back to back, when he was in the regular flow of things, he scored 36 points and hit 8 out of 9 threes. But last night he couldn't really get into a rhythm last night. And listen, for a Clippers team that just brought back basically 4 starters with Kawhi, Nicholas Batum, Patrick Beverley, and these guys, they played an amazing defensive game for 46 minutes. For 46 minutes, they played playoff basketball defense for those 46 minutes. It was in that last 2-minute stretch that things started to look like they were coming apart, and they really didn't close the game properly. It was really sloppy. And I've actually never seen a 2-minute stretch in a game that took that long. It took like a half an hour to finish the game with the fouls, threes, free throw shooting, and all of these different things. It took about a half an hour for them to finish off that game. Ultimately, they ended up going to the line and winning the game. And give credit to Patrick Beverley. I think Patrick Beverley hit 4 free throws in a row. Kawhi Leonard hit 4 free throws in a row, who had not been to the free throw line. So guys stepped up to the free throw line and hit their shots to ensure that they were that they were able to come away with the win. Patrick Beverley, on the opening drive of the game, you saw he got a block on Donovan Mitchell, and last night proves why I like Patrick Beverley. When he's healthy, the team has a different complexity on the defensive side of the floor. Like, they're just a different team. They play with a different level of defensive intensity, and I think they went out there to prove a point, to say, listen, you may have beaten us the game prior, but we were missing some of our main key components. And last night, once they got all of their guys back into the offense, given the fact that some of them, a lot of them were kind of rusty, they were still able to get a win against the best team in the NBA if we're looking at record-wise and as far as how they've been playing. And to me, it proves that the Clippers are it proves to me that they're the best team in the NBA, given the fact that they're implementing some new players, they're implementing a new system, they brought in a new coach in Tyronn Lue. For them to put all of these things together, given the fact that they've missed so many games, so many of their key players have missed so many games. If I added up all the games that their key players have missed, and you add them up, that's what you're looking at. 28. They've missed 32 games. Of their 4 starters have missed 32 games combined. And somehow, some way, this team has maintained the 3rd best record in the Western Conference. If that doesn't say something, I don't know what else. I don't know what else does. But for me, right now, given the fact of all of the things I just mentioned to you, I think they're currently the best team in the Western Conference. Will it stay that way? Who knows? I don't know. Things can change, right? But the Lakers are going to be without Anthony Davis for at least a month or so. And I think the Clippers have to have a chance to really make up some ground and probably get to that number 2 seed or possibly the number 1 seed, depending on how the Utah Jazz play moving forward. But to me, right now, I think the Clippers are the best team in the NBA right now, given all of the variables I just factored in. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you think the Clippers are proving that they're the best team in the NBA, or do you think it's another team? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoy the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to make sure you check out the next video that we have coming up. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.